house or the field next to the other road. And it's your boy Icon back with episode 3 for Bridgerton. And the girl named Sophie. So I gotta remember that. Gotta remember that. And before we get started, hit that notification bell, like it or subscribe. It's cold outside, y'all. If you live in the East Coast, and let's get started with some Bridgerton action. So in the last episode, our boy Benedict, he basically saved Sophie from getting taken advantage of by some gentlemen, and he's bringing her back to London. On their way back to London, because again, he still doesn't know that she's the girl from the masquerade ball. So they're in the carriage together. They get caught in the rain. And then when they get caught in the rain, that's when Benedict says, he's like, oh, my family has a small cottage that's not too far from here. So they end up going to the small cottage, and it's a fucking mansion. Because she thought, like, the stables where the horses were, she thought that was the cottage. He was like, no, that's for the animals. And it's like, the cottage was the size of a house. And then, he was just like, that's the cottage. And she was like, Jesus Christ, it's a bloody mansion. And, so they go inside. He doesn't have the keys because the caretakers, they weren't there. Sophie climbed in the window because she's like, as a maid, we're very resourceful. And then, they proceed to go inside. Now, in the last episode, when he fought those two guys that were trying to take advantage of her and the other girl, Benedict actually hurt himself. He had a huge gash, like, on his right side, and he was bleeding profusely. So he sends Sophie, he gives her like a guest room, and then he goes into his own room. While he's in his own room, he basically started having like a fever dream, and then Sophie came rushing over. She's like, sir, is everything the matter? She's like, are you all right? And then she sees like the cut on his side, and then she was like, this is, because he told her, he was like, oh, it's just a minor injury. She's like, this is not minor. So then she took some alcohol, tried to disinfect it. She patched him up, and then she passed out on the chair next to him while he slept all night. So now the caretakers of the house, they came back, and they were like, why is this woman sleeping in the chair, like, next to him? And then, they were just trying to figure out, like, who is she? So they go in there, and then, they talk to them, and then that's when Benedict explains to the two of them, like, oh, what happened to her? And he was like, she's our guest. And then he's like, I'm going to take her back to London at once. And then the madam, she was just like, no. She was like, you're injured. And she's like, I will not, Mrs. Crabtree, I think that's what it was. She was like, you will not go back to London until you're fully healed. And he was like, okay, fine. He was like, I'll stay here, but Sophie must be our guest the entire time. Now, the funny thing about Sophie, because she's a maid, and she's used to doing like the cooking and the cleaning and the caretaking and all this other stuff, especially for her previous household, because she was basically the person who kind of did everything. She's in an environment now where the Crabtrees are actually, like the maids or the servants or the caretakers, and she's a guest. She's not used to not doing stuff. So they call it, you don't know how to leisure. Whereas basically saying you don't know how to relax, you don't know how to chill, you don't know how to have a good time. She's like, I know how to leisure. She's like, I know how to leisure. And then it's clear that she didn't, because the girl was just like sitting there like first of all, she was kicking back that food like there was no tomorrow. Like the Crabtrees made breakfast. She was dogging it. And then, he told her, he was just like, go out and enjoy yourself, enjoy the countryside. And then she was just like, she was walking around the garden, and that girl looked uncomfortable as hell. Like, she saw some weeds in the garden. She couldn't help herself. She started pulling the weeds out of the floor. She just, like I said, she dirtied her dress trying to pull the weeds out of the drawer. It was just a whole big thing. She was trying to like clean dishes at one point, and Mrs. Crabtree was like, if you don't stop doing that, she's like, I have to make myself used, because she's used to being a maid, and she's used to doing shit. So while she was trying to leisure, she got to know Benedict a little bit more. They spoke about his artistry and like his drawings, and how like, he's an artiste. And then he asked her if she knew how to read. And then she was like, yes, I know how to read. And, and then it dawned on me from us, like, because this takes place back in the day. A servant kind of wouldn't know how to read, I guess, because who would teach them? Like, I mean, I guess it's weird, because I assumed that like everybody went to some form of school, but apparently not. Like, apparently not. Like, it didn't seem like it was an uncommon thing that servants didn't know how to read. But whatever. But she was just like, oh, I was present when the children in my last place, was taking lessons, which is a lie, because, she was being taught because she's the daughter of a nobleman. So then, like I said, the two of them get to know each other. She was basically like spying on him down by the river when he was like skinny dipping. And then, the two of them started talking. They flew a kite together. And the entire time they're getting to know each other, they even kissed each other. They kissed each other down by the river. And the entire time that they were getting to know each other, that they were like, enjoying each other's company, flying kites, like walking around the grounds, like swimming and everything. Lady Crabtree, she noticed everything. And she was like, do you see how he treats her? And then he was just like, treats her like what? He was like, I think he likes her. And he's like, of course he likes her. The girl is beautiful. But she's like, but he cannot because she's a maid. Because the thing about it is, if you're a maid, and you're basically sleeping with the people that employ you, you can't get hired anywhere else as a maid because they're just like, oh, if you bring this person in, they're going to sleep with everybody in your house and it's going to cause a lot of drama. Like, hide your husbands, you know what I'm saying? Like, hide your kids, hide your wife. So that's why I was frowned upon. So if you're a maid who has a reputation of being with somebody, who employs you, then it's like, it's just a bad look overall. And then also in high society, like, you're not supposed to sleep with the help. So she was just like, look, she's like, he has to mind himself and know his place. And then she even spoke to him about it. She was like, you can't love that girl because it'll destroy her reputation and everything. So then he felt bad. He apologized to her. He was like, I'm sorry that I kissed you. He's like, I'll never do it again. And then she's like, let us never speak of it again as well. And then the two of them got in the carriage and they ended up going back to London together, because he promised her that he would find her work. And now he's, they shared a moment, but it's like, now we got to get back to business as usual. And he's going to resume the hunt to try to find the girl who he met at the party, which is standing right there. And I'm just like, for the love of God, if she doesn't fucking tell him. I'm like, see, and this is the part where I can't feel bad for Sophie, because I'm like, girl, you should have been told him something. But anyway, so that was basically it for that chapter. As far as the other characters on the show are concerned, Lady Danbury, she's trying to find a new lady in waiting for Her Majesty the Queen. Because Lady Danbury, she desperately wants to travel to her homeland, but the Queen won't let her go. So she ended up speaking to Alice, who is the mother of the Kent household. The thing with Alice is she's very headstrong, because she was like, she don't take no shit. She's very opinionated. You could tell just how she interacts with her husband. And Lady Danbury feels like she'd be the perfect person to be the lady in waiting, basically the Queen's best friend. Like, the Queen, because she was basically thinking like you could see it in her face. Like, she's just like, nah, you're perfect, because she's like, if anything, she's like, Alice, you reminded me of me, like somebody that'll keep it real, to Her Majesty the Queen. But she didn't tell Alice that yet. The youngest Bridgerton child, she's doing her elegant classes. Her name starts with H. I'm still trying to get her name. And Eloise, like, she's accompanying her, and Eloise hates it drastically. Lady Bridgerton, she is still talking to Lady Danbury's brother. And then she told him, she was like, it's been a while since I've been with a man. And then he was like, we'll take it slow. And she's like, oh my. Now, the funny part, the funny storyline, the funny side storyline of this whole episode was pretty much, it was Francesca. Because her and John, they're making love, but she doesn't know jack shit about having sex. And she, now in today's modern society, when two people make love together and it comes to an end, or when you have that explosion, we call it an orgasm. In the land of Bridgerton, they call it reaching the pinnacle. They're like, have you reached the pinnacle with your husband? And then she's like, and then Francesca's like, oh my God. She's like, what's the pinnacle? And she's like, oh, that means you haven't reached it. So Francesca went to go talk to her mom, and I was just like, oh boy. And she was just like, she's like, mother, how does one reach the pinnacle? And then her mom almost choked on her tea. And then her mom kept it real. She was like, hold on. She was like, I've made a terrible mistake with your sister with this regard. And then she tried to explain it to Francesca, and she blew it. So then Francesca basically ended up going to Penelope, and then she was like, how does one reach the pinnacle? And then she was like, oh, it's a sensation you get between your legs, and it was like a bird to a biscuit. And I'm like, why are we failing at this? Why is everyone failing at trying to explain it to this girl? Like, damn. I feel bad for Francesca, because she was like, I don't need similes or metaphors. She's like, I just need information. And like, nobody can answer this question. And I'm sorry, it's the funniest shit of all time. Like, it is completely the funniest shit of all time to watch them try to explain this shit to Francesca. I'm like, for the love of God, woman, just talk to your husband. And then also, we find out in Sophie's old household with the wicked stepmom and the stepdaughters, because Sophie left and she was a maid who basically did everything for them, the family is struggling now that she's no longer in the house. And because she's no longer in the house, the mom of the house, she desperately needs to replace her. So she stole 7 maids from 7 other houses. And then Lady Whistledown, she even put in her gossip column, she said that the maid that was excommunicated from the household must have been a very, very capable maid if it takes 7 women to replace this one maid. And now everybody's afraid because they're trying to poach like the best maids from all other families. All the other families are nervous, and they called it maid wars. There's a war for the greatest maids out there. And then even Lady Bridgerton, she said to her maid, she was like, "Are you happy here?" And then she was like, "Yes, Mom." She's like, "Anybody that says differently," she's like, "I'll take care of it myself." Now the Featherins, unfortunately, the Featherin household. The woman who's been like the head maid for the Featherin household, she's been there since season 1. We've seen this woman go through all sorts of shit. And then she even asked, she said to Lady Featherin, she was like, "Mom," she was like, "I got an offer to work for another household." She was like, "It's more money." And then she was like, "Oh, you're not happy here?" And she was like, "Of course I'm happy here." She's like, "I love you and your family, and I've been here since day one." But she said that, but the money, she's like, "I can't." She said the money is nothing to sneeze at. So she said, "Would it be wrong to ask you if you could match that offer?" Because she said, if you could match that offer financially, she's like, "I would love to stay here." And then Lady Featherin gave her this whole thing. She was like, "Well, we can't afford it." She's like, "We can't afford to have you." She's like, "Money is tight, but to make up for it," she's like, "I'll give you some of my old dresses that you love so much." And then the next day, Lady Featherin went to the market and bought like 5 new dresses. And then her housemaid, she was like, she's like, "Mom," she's like, "What are all these dresses?" She said, "Well, I had to replace the 5 dresses that I gave you yesterday." She's like, "But you said money was tight." And then after that, she gonna leave. Like, you could tell she gonna leave. Like, her heart was broke. She's like, "This bitch lied in my face." She said she told me she ain't got no money and she just bought like 7 new dresses. She was like, "Nah, fuck that." After 4 seasons, she was like, "I'm out this bitch." So I'm looking forward to that. We're looking forward to seeing that. I was like, it's actually cool that they still keep the Featherins around for something. Although the eldest sister wasn't in the episode, but the youngest sister is still there. But that was how the episode as a whole ended. And Sophie and Benedict are on their way back to high society, back to London. And thank you for tuning in. So so things are getting good because now Sophie and Benedict, they're on their way back to London. And the thing is, the wicked stepmother, she told her, "Now that I'm firing you, I'll make sure you never get a job as a maid in London ever again." And now she's coming back with the Bridgerton boys. So this is interesting. This is definitely interesting. And then I want to see how the maid wars go and everything. But share your questions. And then the Pinnacle. We still got to talk about the Pinnacle. Share your questions, comments, and concerns down below. Let's continue to talk about it. Check me out on X. Check me out on TikTok. Check me out on Instagram and YouTube, where you can leave your questions, comments, and concerns. What do you think about this particular episode of Bridgerton, episode 3? And I look forward to bringing you episode 4. And then we conclude the mid-season. And then we wait for the end of February for the rest of the season of Bridgerton. So that was it, guys. So until next time, as we review episode 4 of Bridgerton, let's all reach the pinnacle together. Until then, we're out this bitch.